Dire wave.
3.
Our anthropology is not derived by human psychology or, empirical data from MIT or something like this. It's derived from the revealed aspect of what we see in Christology. And so there's no real way to diagnose man's problem and to understand man and man's anthropology, as I said, without the right theology. Logos is the icon of the Father, and man is the icon of God. We are the image of God.
Dire wave.
3.
Dire wave.
3.
The arts reflect the soul, the spirit of a people. Architecture reflects the soul, the spirit of a people. And so therefore you can see the degeneracy, you can see the degradation, and the loss of aesthetics, the loss of the idea of there being harmony, order, symmetry in aesthetics is connected with the loss of a coherent worldview and philosophy. All right. Hopefully you guys can hear me. We do not have our normal setup because I'm on the road, as you can see. And I think David will be here in a minute. And we'll get into some issues with him. So the clips that we have are going to be, I'm going to link them for everybody because, like I said, I'm not at home. I'll be home the rest of this week, and then I'll be able to do the normal live streaming and all that. So I'll put in the chat for you here first. The reason this is important, and I'll play the clips later this week on other live streams. We're going to do several. We'll have to do a series on all this because it's a lot of silly stuff. A lot of background drama and all that. And so here is the audio lecture that he gives, telling people not to listen to myself, Father Peter Hears, Father Deacon Ananias's patristic faith. You know, outlets that talk about the things that they find unpalatable and that are not under the immediate control of Ancient Faith Radio or my OCN or whatever those approved outlets are.
So there's the link for the whole lecture, and then also accompanying his lecture are slides, and you can see the approach he takes to what we talk about. It's all in a very mocking tone, which I don't care that he mocks what I talk about. The point is that so many people, Father Galloway, that is, so many people on Twitter are assuming that I just chose to randomly attack a person, and that I had no reason. It was just, kind of trying to find a way to stir up some drama, right? Now, before we get into this, I want to point out, there's his slides there, I think. I want to point out that in the last 3 years, we've done nothing but apologetic work geared towards converting people from various backgrounds, Roman Catholic, Protestant, Muslim, atheist, you name it. And we had almost no interactions or drama directly with any clergy, calling any clergy out, stoking any drama with any clergy. The only incident of this goes back to 2018, when Father Andrew Damick came after me and attempted to paint me as a tiny mustache man follower and someone who should be most likely excommunicated as soon as he joined. Now, I did a whole podcast on that. I'm sure you've all seen it. That was 2018. And at that time, I told people what was going to happen and what did happen post-CUF. And I don't mean I told you about CUF, but I'm saying that these bishops and these clergy who are involved in this kind of stuff, these very Americanist ones, are the ones that are going to be a problem. In 2018, there was hundreds of people, not that I even care, but my channel, my reach was a lot smaller then, dogpiling, oh, you're so mean, how dare you attack Father Andrew Damick, how dare you attack Ancient Faith Radio. This is the problem of these young converts attacking. And in fact, as when I did the podcast, everyone then saw that I didn't start any fire or any drama with Father Andrew Damick. Father Andrew Damick called everybody in my audience a bunch of stupid incels. Well, he called them incels and a whole bunch of other stuff. I don't know if he called them stupid, but and that's still out there today, and he issued a public apology for that. Ancient Faith Radio contributors came after me when I called out the person who was promoting Skittles thing to kids that they feature on their program. And when I mentioned this, what did they do? They went after me and said I was a bad person. And then it comes out that, oh, actually I was correct. That was all going on. And so the idea that we sit around and we want to stir up drama, figure out who we can attack online. I want to go after this kindly, humble priest on Twitter because I need some attention. I need some drama. I need to be mean today. I haven't had my daily quota of being mean to people. And that is completely not what happened. And you're all going to see that because this person has been tasked with coming after all of the people in our circles, not just me. It's not just about me, right? It's also the coming after Father Peter Heers, telling people to not pay attention to Father Josiah Trenham, not pay attention to Father John Wyford, not pay attention to anybody in the circles of anybody who's not completely under the sway of what the direction that the OCA wants to go in long term. And that's all going to be factual. Do you guys think that I just did this willy-nilly? Like I didn't have OCA priests that were whistleblowers coming to me, bringing me the information? No, that's why I did this. And I did this in concert with a bunch of other people, including a bunch of other clergy. And all that's going to come out. And I'm showing you right now that he does lecture on telling people that we're bad news. And his arguments are the lamest things you can imagine, conspiracy theories. Well, who was right about these conspiracy theories the last 3 years? We were. And in 2018, when I told you all to beware of these people, so many hundreds of people said I was mean, I was bad. It was all so I could just get attention and I wanted to dogpile and smear people and all. And none of that was true. Because our testimony is 100% legit that for the last 3 years, we have done nothing but work towards converting people. And the only cleric that we've openly criticized in the last 3 years was Father Stephen Andrew Damick, and that was mainly me. Nobody else was criticizing clerics. No one was smearing clerics, none of that. Until now, Father Galloway, who put up a public statement, it's all public now, you see. saying why I should be avoided. And it's not just me, it's all the other priests in my circles or people that are friendly to us. So that's what kicked this off. It was not a humble priest's comments with slight criticism. And I just shared with you the lectures that he gives, mocking us, mocking everything that we do, saying that we're ridiculous conspiracy theorists, all the stuff that you would expect. And yet hundreds of people assumed, just jumped in and assumed that this was all just me going after a humble priest. And just like in 2018, it wasn't me going after Father Andrew Damick. These are people who have obvious liberal tendencies. They're even open about their liberal tendencies. There's his lecture. And so he lectures in the seminaries to try to make sure that the priests that are coming into the church to be ministers, new minister priests, that they don't have the kinds of unpalatable views that we have. And I'm going to tell you, it's not anything to do with who's mean. It's not anything to do with who talks about conspiracy theories, although that has a little bit to do with it, because that does relate to ultimately the geopolitical agenda of the OCA eventually wanting to have recognition from the EP, and the EP wanting to go back to Rome. Now, I did podcasts 5 years ago on this, and I told you 5 years ago in my EP podcast, and in my Spooky Subversion podcast, and in the podcasts on NGOs and foundations that we've done ad nauseum, all of what you would see, that people would be pushing to go back to Rome. People would be pushing for the ecumenist stuff more and more and more. And what have we seen in the last 5 years? Everything that I told you about in those podcasts 5 years ago. So David has done a lot of great work with us over the years. We've been good buddies for almost 5 years now. He goes back to when all this was originally kicking off, so he remembers all of this. And I'm going to show you guys this so you can see that I was right about all this 5 years ago. I told you what the movement would be 5 years ago, pushes towards ecumenism. And you'll notice that there's that podcast 5 years ago. You'll notice that the SPZH, which does a lot of great work, what have they been reporting in the last 3 years? Everything that I told you. The move, the push for the specters of union with Rome, right? And so the whistleblower priests who have come to me from the OCA have pointed out, and some former OCA, have pointed out that this was known 10 years ago. And it was known in terms of Archbishop Benjamin, what all scandals he was involved in, what all cover-ups he was involved in, including gay sex scandals, including the the running off of Metropolitan Jonah, who's done nothing but great work over here and helped us out. And I'm going to show you that. And so the reason that this matters is that this is the locus of the opposition, right? So the people are saying, oh, you're just making up that this is targeted against you. And I waited because I had this lecture and I had his talk mocking us and saying that we should never be listened to. I had it last night and I wanted to wait and see, or 2 days ago, and I wanted to see, well, what were people going to say when I talked about this? And of course, everyone said, oh, it's all made up. Jay's making this up. There is no concerted attack against him. One of the priests, Father Nicholas Breckenridge, who I've never said anything bad about, don't have any criticism or anything. He said, oh, Jay has invented this, fabricated that there is a push to go after him. Well, as you can see in the talks that are given by Father Galloway, it's an explicit attack on what we do. And it's an attack based on the vector of mocking us and saying that there are no conspiracy theories. Imagine after the last 3 years and these same bishops being the ones that shut your churches down, saying that there's no conspiracy theories. And that's the only thing that they have. I'm a conspiracy theorist, even though I've been right about all this. And I'm mean. And what exactly constitutes being mean? Well, you get heated in debates and you get the passions going. Well, what about all of these Skittles things that the OCA clerics in New York do? Is that worth calling out? Where's the focus of the crusade? Is the focus of the crusade on people like Orthodoxy and Dialogue, The Wheel, Public Orthodoxy, Fordham? Where's the crusade against Fordham by the OCA bishops? Where's the crusade against all this other stuff from OCA bishops? Now, I'm not talking about a public statement of bureaucracy, PR, that we don't agree with Skittles. I'm talking about a going out and lecturing on a tour and trying to make sure that incoming future priests don't listen to anything that we talk about. Where is that crusade at St. Vladimir Seminary? Where's the crusade against gender inclusive language that was being pushed at St. Vladimir's recently? Where's the crusade against that? Maybe it's there, I don't know. But it's just odd to me that the decision on the part of several OCA bishops and clergy, right? And so everybody wants to have a list, have me on their list. Okay, well, we'll just make a list too. And explain that, okay, Father John Parker, Father Barnabas Powell, Father Rep Breckenridge, Father David Galloway, essentially all of these people who have chosen that to make me this sort of bad man, and to have chosen to say that Father Peter here is a bad man. And by the way, this spills over into all the other priests who have done great work and didn't submit to all this stuff the last 3 years. Those are the bad people. You understand? And somebody said, do people celebrating Skittles things in the church, like happened in that OCA cathedral in New York, does that excite the passions? I'm confused. Does mocking what we do and saying to avoid us because he says, quote, only 3% of priests recommend what we do. Now, he sent this study to his friends, right? So, of course, his friends, there's only going to be 2 or 3 people that recommend what we do amongst the control group that he sent it out to. So his proof is that we're bad people. But again, guys, all of this has to do ultimately with where the OCA wants to go in 3 years, because 2025 is the anniversary of Nicaea. They want to have a reunion with Rome, the EP. This never comes up. This must be buried by Google. It's so hard to find this. So you can literally type in the exact title of the articles. And I mean, Google is just completely broken. This doesn't even work. Okay, so there's the push for Rome, as has been talked about openly. You think this is a conspiracy theory when the EP openly talks about it and has talked about it for a long time? And as someone who's studied ecumenism for many, many years, and the geopolitical usages of ecumenism, do you think that I'm just making this up? I just invent conspiracy theories, even though we lecture through books that are 700, 800 pages on the regular covering these topics. So there you can see SPZH, multiple articles, by the way. They have tons of articles over there about the push for the union with Rome, the recent meetings between the Pope and the new schismatic group in Ukraine to try to regularize the relations there. I mean, if you don't know what's going on and don't have a sense of this, then you're completely in the dark. And why are you even commenting on this if you don't know about this? And somebody said, oh, you have no business talking about this. Oh, really? Well, I'm pretty sure that I have quite a bit of knowledge on this. I mean, I do interviews with, very prominent intelligence figures, very prominent military figures, war heroes, right? Colonels that were almost made national security advisor. So, I mean, would I be talking to these people if I was just some idiot on the internet making up conspiracy theories? Why would these people do interviews? Why would we cover these topics for so many years? Why would we gain such an audience of intelligent people who know what's going on if this was all absurd conspiracy theories and made up nonsense. Now, as we saw with the clip from David's video, Bishop Alexander of the OCA, David made a great video years ago pointing out the real motivation behind Bishop Alexander's attack on Father Peter Heers doesn't really have anything to do with anything nasty about Father Heers and his status or anything like that. It really has to do with ecumenism and the notions of certain ways to receive converts that attempt to undercut any ecumenist ideas. That's the chief issue. And so Father Peter Heers represents the opposition to ecumenism, and that's why he has to be attacked. And the reason that all of this is such a big deal isn't even me, it's not conspiracy theories, it's because, again, of the direction that these people want to go. And it's not a conspiracy theory. And I'll be having all the people on, Lord willing, who are the whistleblowers and who are the people involved in this. So anyway, David, I want to get your take first on, because you've seen this going back to 2018. You've seen this. And by the way, people say, oh, you don't have any approval for any of this. It's all just made up. People said this in 2018 when I took all of my stuff to my priest and asked for them to show it to the bishop. And nobody said anything about it, but none of the theology was. Now, when I talk about geopolitical issues, those are my opinions. But the theological issues, none of the theology is incorrect. And you can say, well, but you weren't really properly formed to have that discussion. Oh, well, fair enough. I will accept that as a legitimate criticism. But now here we are 5 years later, and the same criticisms are there. Oh, you're not properly formed. You haven't done this long enough. Now, that's not your call to make. People that don't know me, people that aren't my spiritual father, that's not your call. And I do take all of this information. I talk to my spiritual father on the regular. I go to confession on the regular. So the idea that this is like, oh, I just want to cause drama. We have not caused any drama in the last 3 or 4 years. We don't go after clergy. We make it a policy. We don't give spiritual advice. And everybody that's been in our Discord the last 3 or 4 or 5 years knows that we don't give spiritual advice. We don't tell people what to do in the bedroom. We don't tell people what to do outside of telling them to go to their spiritual father and to go to church. And so it's a lie, 100% lie, that we keep people from the church, that we tell them not to go to church, that it's an internet church, that I run a cult. All of that is completely a lie, 100% a lie. And the people who know what we talk about know that that's not true. So the idea that I'm supposed to allow all of these people to just lie and I'm not supposed to reply, take it on the cheek. No, you don't take it on the cheek when it's at a point where there is a coordinated effort of many OCA clergy to now come out against what I say. Now, you'll notice they're all coming out right now at this time to oppose the stuff that I talk about and to oppose all the other good priests that talk about this stuff. So while they're saying there's no coordinated attempt to do this, they're all doing it at the same time. And it's not just my speculating. It's OCA whistleblower priests who have come to me and explained that this is what's going on. So, David, I want to get your take on this. What's your thought on what's going on?
Yeah, I think before I start though, can you give me access on Twitter that the people in the Twitter space can hear me as well?
Yeah.
All right. Well,
go ahead.
It doesn't tell me that I got the. Oh, there it is. All right, I think my mic is on there. All right, good. So I can still hear a bit of echo. So if you can mute your mic, that will be great.
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, yeah, I got it. All right. So I as you said, it's been a couple of years since I made this video. The specific video, the title of the video has something to do with Bishop Alexander Golitsyn attacks Father Peter Heers, and this kind of came out of nowhere. And I think it was especially at the time of the meme virus nonsense that was going on. Father Peter Heers, as everyone knows, was of course there were other clergy that were speaking out against it. Of course there were other Orthodox Christians speaking out against it. But at a time where a lot of people, even those who have some knowledge of the spirit of the how to best react to it. And so Father Peter had really great insights on it, especially from the saints themselves, who many of them have prophesied on events that exactly happened, 3 years ago, right? And Bishop Alexander Golitsyn, and I linked this in the video. He basically, this is the first time I have personally seen a church in America straight up say, do not watch the content of X, blog or YouTube channel or whatever. This is the first time I've seen. Maybe they've done it before and I just haven't seen it before, but this is the first time I have personally seen something like this happen. And it was against Orthodox ethos. And he supplied a letter from an anonymous clergy, right? Anonymous clergy that was making certain arguments on why no one should watch it. And the arguments were in general very bad. It was basically conspiracy theory stuff and all this kind of stuff. And there was some apology on stuff like, multiple spoons and stuff like that, right? Which we dealt with that 3 years ago, so I don't want to get into it again. Ever since then, things were mostly quiet, right? Until very recent ramp attacks against Father Peter Heers, questioning his, again, canonical status, but also questioning his theology on the reception of converts and using that as an excuse to attack him. And certain people, especially the person that runs the Theoria channel, even went as far as to blame a Orthodox Christian's unfortunate, I suppose I can say Sudoku because of YouTube, regulations and such. He basically used that and blamed it on Father Peter Heers and on traditional Orthodox Christians. Now, this is itself ridiculous, but it gives you a big question mark. Why is this person even doing this? What's the intention? And I think the intention, as we see in the recent days, is that there's this effort, and I've seen this especially, particularly from OCA clergy again, where they're trying to make this list of websites and blogs and YouTube channels where priests basically give recommendations on what to watch and what not to watch. Now, to their credit, they say, don't watch public Orthodox and stuff like that. But it's like, that's to be expected, right? I mean, they are straight up subversive. They're straight up heretics at the end of the day. But people like you and me, I'm not popular enough, I suppose, to be included in any of this kind of a list. But, people like you who have been defending the Orthodox faith for a long time, not only do we not even get a basic thank you and appreciation, these people straight up say, no, you shouldn't watch these people because I don't like these people's style of debate. I don't like these people's style of communication, which is incredible. It's an incredibly lame excuse to use against, but I think it gives you... It gets you to the real intention of a lot of these attacks, of a lot of these moves, right? Even from people that some people might think are good. And I think really the intention is to ultimately curate certain people, only select certain people as accepted authorities who don't really go too much on the arguments against ecumenism, against Roman Catholicism and Protestantism and other sects, so that there can be a more ecumenical, so to speak, approach to various different churches. That's really the intention. Now, the best interpretation of this, the most charitable interpretation, is that they don't want people like us so that they can be nice to Roman Catholics or whatever. The worst interpretation, which is unfortunately closer to the realistic interpretation as well, is a total union, right? Or certain, political move in order to gain recognition in the case of OCA, a move to, achieve union with the Roman Catholic Church in the case of, for example, the Greek Church. As someone who is in Turkey, and I know a couple of people here who go to ecumenical patriarchal churches, now some of them I don't believe, some of these stories I don't believe because they haven't been verified, they've been denied by other people, but some of these stories are, I think, indeed real, where you have clergy here in Istanbul under the ecumenical patriarchate giving communion, giving the Eucharist to monophysites, to Roman Catholics. Now, again, this is not entirely something that happens in the ecumenical patriarchate, just like how it is also the case that not every OCA priest is in line with ecumenism and stuff like that, but rather it points out that there's an intention within the hierarchy to push this, and the greatest proof of this is that they allow it, right? So they allow Orthodox things to be said because, that's to be expected, but they allow at the same time heretical things to be done without actually correcting these people. And that's the real concern. And that's the real question that people should ask themselves. And
I think that's
That's
what
what
people
people
really do not seem to understand. But as I said, where are all of these outcries against various different subversive groups? This is something that we've been expecting for years, but now we're being lumped in with these groups. But all we have done is help people in traditional Orthodox theology. And last thing I want to say, I don't want to talk too much, but the last thing I want to say about this is that, again, we've done nothing other than encourage people to go to an Orthodox church near them. We told them, go to an Orthodox church, you get spiritual advice from the priests and the clergy. And again, if we were Roman Catholics or Protestants, we will get ministerial support if we were within those groups. So the grifter accusation is baseless, right? If we were grifters, why will we be Orthodox? I mean, if you're Orthodox, you don't get support unless you're part of the ancient faith, ministries. That's really the only
ministry. Why would we
take?
Why would we take the stance? Why would we take the stances we're taking, which are not typically that popular, except for the people that listen to our audience? Like within the domain of the church, it's probably not that popular what we talk about, the geopolitical stuff, the ecumenist stuff. I mean, the push for ecumenism we would have Fordham support. We would be invited to Fordham conferences. We would be given establishment promotion. But because we don't align with that stuff, we have to be classed as part of that crusade. And remember, it's also for where they want to go in the long run to move Orthodox churches more and more into this globalist agenda, which is public. And so the idea of Father Galloway to mock this and act like there aren't conspiracies, it doesn't exist, and there's no push for ecumenist. I mean, has he not seen the Abu Dhabi Faith Center with Muslims and Jews and Christians that Pope Francis has put together? Has he not seen the countless ecumenist statements from Patriarch Bartholomew? And so you say, well, you're not qualified to talk about it. Okay, but they talk about it. So you can say I'm not qualified. They talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. And I suppose the point that I'm trying to make again is that we don't really get any kind of, this is a lot of stuff that we do is just grassroots at the end of the day. And again, we barely get any thank yous. We get like from my perspective, I mean, like doing stuff, some of the stuff that I've done, like the Monophysite stuff, right? For example, since this is open to discussion, right? Because people question people, oh, you don't get any clerical approval, you're just some rogue person online. I mean, to people's information, I have to say this because this is put into question now. I had numerous clergy, for example, tell me in good confidence that, for example, that they have been using my content against monophysitism, for instance, when they are doing catechisms or lectures. Now, this gets into St. Vladimir Seminary, for example, which a lot of this quiz was done for, right? This quiz was done for, and the lectures were done for St. Vladimir Seminary. Well, St. Vladimir Seminary, certain graduates, right, Monophysite graduates end up being Monophysite clergy. They are basically promoting certain Monophysite works. They're even printing and publishing Monophysite works. If you look at the church historically, when they have dealt with heretical works, the answer is to burn those works, to burn those books. That's the general answer that has been, not to promote them, not to publish them.
That's mean, though. But that's mean. That's mean to do that.
So you see a very different. So you have the mean spirit of the early church, right? This is kind of like the Marcionite historiography, the mean early church versus the nice guy, contemporary Orthodox church that a lot of these people have envisioned. This is a Marcionite historiography in play here. So when people move aside from the lame excuse like mean or tone and stuff like that, and they get into the actual issues at hand, what they will have to see the reality. And very important comment that I want to make is that there's a lot of people that do see the reality, but they're conflicted. On the one hand, they see the reality and the weak response against it. And on the other hand, they see how bishops, for example, allow certain bad things to happen, and they get put in the conflict where, okay, do I obey my bishop or do I just do my own thing? Well, you don't have to. That's an unnecessary conflict, right? We obey our superiors, we obey the authority, we obey our bishops, but that doesn't mean that we have to be subservient to every thing that they say to us. We don't have to be bootlickers, right? Bootlicking is an aspect of Roman Catholicism, and even Roman Catholics don't bootlick, right? And in the Orthodox Church, in Orthodox history, what we do is we discern the spirit of the age and we act towards it. And for that, we use contemporary examples, or this can be modern elders that we have, or spiritual fathers. If we don't have them, then we move to the lives of the saints and we look to the saints for guidance. And it was very interesting to me to see that a lot of people, even when they saw saints talking about, the magic injection stuff, from 2-3 years ago, a lot of them basically said, well, that's not about this magic injection shot. It's talking about another magic injection shot. These kinds of lame excuses because they saw their hierarchy not being as strong as they should have been. I think that's just it's making the same mistake Roman Catholics made like 60, 70 years ago, where they thought that their clergy were completely free from error, right? And when they were disillusioned from that, there was a complete and utter collapse of the authority. And the last thing we want to see is the same thing happen for the Orthodox Church. It's not something that we're going to do. We're not going to leave the church because we already are ready for it, but we're afraid for people who might not expect it, for instance. And that's why certain people are leaving the church for that reason, because they have this very wrong understanding of authority and how to obey bishops, right? And even bishops themselves will tell you, I'm not Christ. You're not supposed, I'm not responsible for all of your spiritual life at the end of the day, right? He has a certain role that he fills. So I think letting people know that is also very important, because I see a lot of people make mistakes on that front, at least on social media.
Yeah, I mean, the point here is that there's a much wider thing at play, and I would say probably 80 to 90% of the Orthodox don't know this. Some of them do. And even a lot of clergy don't know this because they're not familiar with geopolitics. There are many clergy who are very studied in these topics and know these things better than me. Father John Wyford knows this stuff really well. I see the stuff that he puts out on his Telegram, and I mean, he's very, very well studied on all the geopolitical issues. He knows the Russia-Ukraine stuff way better than me, and many other clergy do too. But I know enough about this to know, how. Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting, but you should unmute yourself through the space as well.
Yeah, but it's difficult to go back and forth to do that until once we start having the people on, I'll unmute the Twitter space thing. But
all right,
I can try it, but as soon as you talk, I'll have to do it again. Let's see. All right, so yeah, what I was getting to was the point that there's a bigger game afoot here. It's a lot more to do with people that the OCA in particular, and it's not every priest in the OCA. This Ilya guy who is going off on us for the last few days has essentially just made up the idea that we are calling all the OCA Skittles, all of the OCA are ecumenists. We never said anything like that. I have really good friends that are the whistleblower priests coming to me. 2 of them were from and are OCA. So the idea that this is to call everybody Skittle, it's not true. We never said that. But I am talking about a concerted effort on the part of specific clergy and bishops that we do know about, and they're now being open about it, right? Remember, I was making all this up, and then I asked Father David Galloway, 4 or 5 days ago, oh yeah, it turns out, I was giving lectures against why you shouldn't be listened to. And, oh yeah, now it's come out, other priests give lectures at men's groups and say, avoid these people. I'm not bothered that it doesn't hurt my feelings. It's not going to destroy my channel. It's not going to do anything ultimately hurting my feelings or anything like that. But the idea that many people are duped by this and assume that we are trying to cause problems when all we've done was work to bring people to the Orthodox Church is just completely not true. The idea that all of the efforts that I'm engaged in, that I'm out to be mean to people, is not true. In the span of 5, 6, 7 years of debating and doing online discussions, you will maybe find within that 100, 200 hours of debating, you're going to find probably 5, 6, 7 times where I got angry and lost my temper. And that's in contrast to hundreds of other hours where I didn't. So the idea, and it's the same model you'll notice of what Lofton, for example, does. It's the same modus operandi of the Roman Catholics. Lofton does the exact same thing where he says, 5 years ago, you got mad at Eric Ibarra and you called him fat. You understand? So you're still, right, guilty for something that you did 5 years ago. And yeah, I made a joke to priests that happened to be overweight. Why did I do that? Because if my disposition of being heated is itself a cause of the passions. If I'm the one that stirs everyone's passions, and if we're going to be called cults by these people, then why can I not respond and make the same point and say, well, wait a minute. By your own standards, you tweet out things about, you tweet memes about autism jokes, about kids having autism. You tweet out stuff about, all kinds of, you tweet, make all kinds of jokes, right? I think at one point he even plays Ghetto Boys in his lecture, which is ridiculous. Like, mental problems when he was younger. No, he says that he developed mental problems when he was young and did not have them diagnosed until 2008. And that is not my concern per se. It is the OCA who is concerned and gives people multiple psychological exams before they go into ordination. So I just simply ask the question, why would they send a person who has mental problems to be their kind of attack dog and to go out and lecture and give the seminary lectures and present statistics that he just gave to his friends that 98% of the Orthodox Church and their clergy do not recommend you and are against you. Now, let's say that that is the case. I would also still have my same opinion, not because I'm intent on being prideful, but because if what I talk about is factual, truth is not determined by a consensus. It doesn't matter if 99% of the priests say that there's no such thing as a push for union with Rome. There's no such thing as ecumenism. There's no such thing as Skittles problems. If 98% of the church said that, would that make it true? No, it would not. And so this is a classic mode of attack where it's like, you are just being prideful. You just want to rebel against people. You just want to, no. How do you know the motives of what we do? If my motives are completely self-centered, why would we talk about this stuff? I just go talk about whatever I want to do, whatever I want to do. Why would I be doing this stuff? You think I want to sit here and argue with these people, with these clergy? I don't want to do that. But we also have a duty to stand our ground and stand up for what's right. That's what a man does. This guy who's like Ilya guy, tweeting every day about what we do, saying that we're a cult. And then when you ask him and say, come have a conversation. I'm not talking about you, brother. Of course you are. What are you talking about? Everyone can see you're talking about me, calling me a cult leader. And so, we had a guy yesterday who got mad. I reached out. I said, yeah, come have a conversation. We had a conversation. He said, you know what? I see your side of it now. I don't think you're a bad guy. I don't think you're trying to cause trouble. And he tweeted that out, and I appreciate that. That was a masculine, manly thing to do. But the essence of what's the problem here is feminized men who see being passionate in a debate as somehow a threat, as a problem. As if that's the real problem in the church. Not all this other stuff. It's online ortho bros. Number one, that was a joke comment somebody made years ago. Never coined that term, never used that term, except as a joke 5 years ago. I don't run a cult. We don't run a movement. We always tell people, and everybody knows this. There's 9,000 people in the Discord? And everyone, the people that have been in there for 5 years can tell you that the reason that this is disproven by the fact that all of these people, even the people who are critics, admit, well, how are we having so many young men show up at our parishes? Well, how would they be showing up at your parish if we're running a cult and not telling them to go to church? So they're disproven merely by the fact that they admit all of these young men are showing up to their church as they attack us, saying that we don't tell people to go to church and we try to go against clergy and we do undermine. None of that's true. And they know that by the fact that they admit all these young men are showing up at church. And keep in mind, at least 2 of these OCA clerics have said, I do not want these young men showing up at my church. They cause pastoral problems. What are the pastoral problems? You talk about conspiracy theories. And everybody in the chat's talking about all the... There was a priest who didn't like me for many years. And then he changed his mind. Why? He reached out, he changed his mind. He said, because I had 40 catechumens show up, and we've never had that many catechumens. Something like that, some number like that. That's just one parish. So the idea that we're running a parallel cult where we don't tell people to go to church is completely false. And so these people are grasping for whatever they can to try to figure out how I'm a bad man. Cult leader, he gets too heated in a debate. 10 years ago, he texted a girl when he was drunk. We know, whatever. What have we got? That's it. So that's all distractions, though. None of that is really what it's about. What it's actually about is, do you have discernment to see where the church is moving? I'm talking about various jurisdictions, such as OCA desires. Where do they want to go? What is the attitude and approach of Archbishop Benjamin, for example? And for those of you who think that I just make all this up, very prominent Orthodox websites, been around for many, many years, have called attention to these problems with Archbishop Benjamin. Right there. Did I do that? Was I involved in that? Did I cause Archbishop Golitsyn to say that Origen is a saint and that the ecumenical councils erred? I didn't do that. Did I make him an ecumenist? Did we go crazy on him? No, David mentioned it in one video in 3 years. So the idea that there's this campaign, no, we are responding to a campaign. That's the truth. And that's going to be made very evident. And remember, all of the people who said that I'm causing this didn't even realize that Father Galloway has been giving public lectures mocking us. So will they now change their tune and say, okay, well, maybe it was right. Maybe he wasn't trying to start a fight with a humble old man, a humble young man. Anyway, David, did you want to say something?
I want to kind of talk a little bit also about what I see from. Well, I'm basically going to call him the attack dog, right? Because that's what he is. He's an attack dog.
Yeah. I'm talking about the owner of the Theoria channel
again, right? I think it's very clear that he's one of the attack dogs of the OCA.
Yeah, he's one of several. Yeah, he's one of several, obviously.
And what we must understand is both his channel and his person, he's in a sense backed by some clergy, right? Theoria is a channel that is very closely related to, I believe, Father Andrew Stephen Damick, right? And he has many videos on that channel, right? He has 32,000 subscribers. And when I point this out, it gets called whataboutism, but I don't think it is really whataboutism to point out first of all, the double standards, and secondly, the blatant, really insulting a priest, right? So a lot of people have problems with what you said because they think you insulted a priest. But even like I could see, and anyone who has triple-digit IQ could really easily see that the point is, if your internal state can be criticized by your external behavior, then the same can be applied to the other person. And another thing is that I think it's much more offensive to attack someone's internal state than their external state, right? I'd rather be called an ugly person than be called spiritually dead, for example. Right? Ugly, it's like whatever, it will pass away. Spiritually dead, now that's a serious problem.
Well,
right?
this kind of a critique is a very subtle, feminine approach to critique. It's a very passive aggressive thing because no one can judge people's motives or no motives. And so to call into question and make your critique about the fact that, well, because you're heated, you clearly have bad motives. That was my point, right? Exactly. That, well, so if you exteriorly display gluttony, then you have bad motives, right? I was making a fair point. And anybody, like you said, who has didn't Jesus say, judge not on external appearances, right?
Yeah. One thing I want to make a point. This is a very crucial point, is that this person, this attack dog, has actually insulted many different priests, like in an uncontested manner. This can't even be debated, right? So, for example, Father Zechariah Lynch, I think you posted this, like he has a blog post where he talks about how this attack dog also was in a community, St. Brigid's community, who also was welcoming towards Skittles people, right? He called him the Zechariah Lynch character, for example, right? In a dismissive tone. But more so, he called, for example, I believe Father John Whitefoot arrogant, or Father Deacon Ananias, one of the two. And one thing this is very interesting, right? He and this kind of gives you the state of mind with this group of people. There was, for example, an Orthodox priest who apostatized to Roman Catholicism recently, and Father Deacon Ananias, for example, was talking about how this is sad, and he was kind of giving ideas, well, maybe this is why this could happen. And he responds by saying, Well, actually, he is still more Orthodox than you are. So get this. A canonical Orthodox deacon is less Orthodox than an apostate. That's what this person actually thinks. This guy has a 32 his channel has 32,000 subscribers. Why is no one saying, "Hey, maybe someone should do something about this channel"? Why is he saying blatantly heretical things?
Where is the outcry about Ben Cabe's calling, being dismissive and disrespectful to Father Zechariah Lynch and other priests? Where's the lecture tour to go against this just heinous activity? Shouldn't we have lecture tours about the? Because remember, the heinous activity is that I'm heated in debates, and now that I'm mean. Okay, so is there going to be a lecture tour on heated debates and everyone that's mean now? Is that what we gotta get? I mean, it's just so silly, and it's so obvious that this is only about the concern that they have with people that are not ecumenists. That's it. It's the people that are not ecumenists, the people that are sending spurg autistic men to church that are young and quote causing problems for the clergy. But really, that just translates into these are young people who have a sense of what's going on in the world because they're not boomers. They realize that you can go and check within 5 minutes on Google if there's such a thing as NGOs and think tanks and foundations that influence the churches. They're not just going to take Father Andrew Damick's word for it that there's no such thing as NGOs and think tanks and foundations that influence the churches, which is what he said. And so they are expecting that you just take his authority that there's no such thing. And then they're confronted with the fact that anybody in 5 minutes can Google, read Rachel's article that it exists. You can go to Ortho Christian and see that it exists. Foundations funding Skittles stuff, or Fordham University to change orthodoxy. And yet they're being told it doesn't exist, it's not real, and you shouldn't talk about that. So they're confronted with a contradiction, and when it's factually the case, it's now my fault that people don't want to go to those parishes. So you see what's happened is that when they shut the churches down and said, don't venerate the icons, priests that visit, this is what Benjamin's policy was. If you visit the sick and someone gets COVID, or if you venerate the icons and have your church open and do the Eucharist during COVID, you're going to be liable for murder charges. So that was his policy. Gigantic portions hated his policy, including clergy. And they lost people to other jurisdictions. Was it my fault? Well, if it's my fault in that we were correct about our analysis of the status of those people in 2018, and the whole 2020 to 2022 COOF crisis vindicated a lot of what we talked about. And I didn't even name people, but I told you that your priests, they're going to listen to Uncle Sam, they're going to listen to the foundations and medical experts. They're going to push these things on you. They're going to they'll shut your churches down. And when that happens and people leave, it's our fault because they don't have control of our blogs. No, it's their fault. 100%. And everyone can see that. And you cannot shut down blogs. No one's going to be shutting down. No, the blogs are not going to be shut down. People will go and blog anonymously if you shut down their blogs. And you can kick me out of the churches or whatever. That's fine. I'm willing to. I didn't get into this to go back to Roman Catholicism. Nobody who converted to Orthodoxy in the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years of what we've been putting out and so forth converted to go back to Rome. And yet we have the push publicly with these certain jurisdictions to go back to Rome. That's what they ultimately want. And it's not just that. They also ultimately want to move in a Skittles direction, despite the fact that they have a, quote, public bureaucracy statement that they don't accept it. Yeah, that's nice. That's called bureaucracy. If you know about the history of the Vatican, you'll know that every now and then the way you do this is that you throw a bone. Throw a bone to the conservatives. Throw a bone to these people. And I'm sure, I don't doubt there's plenty of OCA clerics, laymen, people. I had many of them reach out in the past couple of days. Hey, I don't believe in Skittle stuff. Yeah, I don't think you do. I don't think even probably the majority of the laity or the clergy do. But there is a concerted effort by many of these people to move in that direction. And everybody knows this. And when I show you examples of it from the OCA Cathedral in New York, oh, you're a bad man for showing that. But I mean, this is what we expected. This is part of it. I understand that. But does anybody have any arguments against the things that we talk about or any disagreements about the facts? Or is it purely really just ad hominem? Well, you're a bad person. Well, 10 years ago, you texted somebody, some flirt thing. Oh, 10 years ago, you made an offhand comment, and I don't have those. I don't have any of those texts, but that you did it. So we literally had a mentally unstable ROCOR priest, Father Drake Adams, just invent wholesale conversations, completely invent associations that I'm part of some tiny mustache man group, and that I told him that I'm only in this for the grift, just all completely made up. And I asked him, I said, you've made insane accusations. Where is the evidence of any of this? He says, I don't have any of this. I don't have any of this evidence. I don't have these because I don't keep a record of this, but you did all this. Well, if you're going to make those kinds of accusations and then say that it's not normative for the church and for the clergy to produce the accusations like that. Excuse me? Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to leak that. I'm going to post that. You don't get the right to privacy because you've invented literally insane levels of information wholesale. Totally made up stuff. He claims that I'm running from him. I'm on the run. I've thought about this person maybe 2 times in 10 years. And this is literally psychotic behavior. You're on the run from me and I will get you. And I'm like, with what? What are you talking about? I have 5 pieces of evidence that you are this, and it's all made up. It's like, and everybody who follows he says, you're a Romanides pusher. You work for the Lavender Mafia. You do that. You say Augustine's a heretic. All 100% lies. And everybody who follows the work that we do knows that we critique Romanides significantly. We've done entire 3-hour podcast critiquing him. Knows that we say that Augustine is a saint, but that he made theological errors. And when I told him this, he says, no, you're lying. You do say these things. So this is the level of gaslighting and mental instability and insanity. It's all on my Twitter. Father Drake Adams, ROCOR, Western Rite. And threatening that I'm going to be dealt with, threatening this and that. Okay, well, let's just put all this out here. And you can produce this information of all these crazy things that I've told you. Like I would tell a person who hates me, hey, I'm going to keep my grift going. Like I would say that to the person that hates them. It's just preposterous. No one would say to the person that hates them, that wants to destroy them, hey, by the way, let me tell you what I'm really up to. Haha, DM, I'm grifting. Haha, it's all a grift. It's just horrible. It's just insane. And, I don't have to produce this information. I don't keep a record of these things. What? Everybody who follows this work over here can see and knows that that's complete baloney. So that's what we're having to deal with. You think I'm mean. I'm having people wholesale make up things. They want me to eventually get me excommunicated. They want me thrown out of the church. They even said that. He's like, you need to be dealt with. It's time to shed you. And again, all that will do is I will enjoy if I'm eventually kicked out of these churches. I don't expect that to happen because my priest is really great. But I will consider it an honor to be kicked out of ecumenist, Skittles-based churches when all we've done is work to convert people to Orthodoxy. I will consider it an honor. David, are you there? Did you freeze?
No, I'm here. I just don't really have. I think I've covered what I wanted to cover. So yeah.
We'll do a separate stream when I get back where I have all my capabilities, and I'll show all the stuff that we've talked about. I'll show you the articles. Now, I put the articles in the chat. If you're wondering about the previous actions of Archbishop Benjamin, who's one of the key figures behind this, here is a link to the Monomachos article covering what he's all about and the background of why he's involved in this, why he, for whatever reason, never talked about him, never thought about him, don't know him, never said anything bad about him or any of these people, but they've determined that what we do is bad. And then there's the article in the chat there about by the way, it's also because we had Metropolitan Jonah come on and do a lot of talks and interviews and catechesis. Of course, Archbishop Benjamin does not like Metropolitan Jonah. Metropolitan Jonah was pushed out of the OCA many years ago precisely because he wasn't on board with a lot of these things. And so that's another element to the background that you could read about. Plenty of articles on that. That's not just me. That's me talking to Metropolitan Jonah. That's me talking to other priests who were pushed out of the OCA 10 years ago. So if you guys want to come over to the VC chat, I'll put you on. You can request to speak. The way it works on Twitter is that you request to speak. I will have you come on, and then you have the floor. You can talk about whatever you want within reason. You can voice your criticisms and your concerns. If you think that I'm wrong, that's fine. You can tell me I'm wrong. You can say that you think that I should have done this, I shouldn't have said that. I'm not mad at you. Now, you said, why'd you block all these people yesterday? Because many of these people were malicious. That's why. If you're not malicious, you want to offer constructive criticism, you're more than welcome to come on. You disagree, you're more than welcome to come on. But the idea that there aren't malicious people and that it's all just us being mean, that's just simply not true. There's plenty of malicious people. I invited this guy calling me a cult leader. Please come on and have a conversation. Feel free to voice your concerns. And he says, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to tweet in a passive aggressive way, not naming you, but obviously talking about you, but it's not about you, he says. Okay, well, the other guy who had a big issue with me yesterday, he came on. Now, Father Soroka is another person who has said that I need to be dealt with. So I don't have any problem with any of these. Never talked about these people. Never said anything bad about these people. But Father Soroka is one of these people who put up on his Facebook 2 years ago. There is a day coming when all of these Orthodox online people are going to be dealt with, and the hammer will be dropped. There's some phraseology like that we will be dealing with this soon, and this will come to an end. No, it's not going to come to an end.
I want to make a comment about Soroka, by the way, because
this is something that I dealt with a couple of months ago, and to his credit, he went against this guest, but at the end of the day, he still gave him platform, right? Which is something that it doesn't do to us. And there was a Origenist by, I guess I can say, is Ambrose Angiano, a total Origenist, a total liberal, a total heretic, and he gave platform to him as a guest on his podcast. Now, again, I've heard that apparently he did grill him, he did criticize his position and all of that, but at the end of the day, okay, you're still giving him platform and recognition to talk about this issue, but against online people. So a heretic is fine, you can give him platform, but an actual Orthodox Christian that believes in the faith, and you just merely disagree with him on styles of helping people and presenting arguments and stuff, no, the hammer is going to be dropped on us, because we are much more evil than actual heretics that are teaching that aliens might exist and might give us information, that Skittle stuff is actually okay, that Origin is a saint. Okay, that he can say those things and still be an okay person, but we who are just repeating what the fathers say when we're trying to help people about the Orthodox faith, no, we are the bad people. It's just totally ridiculous. When I hear stuff like this, to me, it's very difficult to understand, other than the fact that the reason why this is happening is because they don't want to move out of their comfort bubble, right? Because it makes them uncomfortable that they have to face the fact that maybe Orthodoxy is really this kind of a religion when it comes to dealing with heresies and such. Whereas they want to be more American, they want to be more nice, they want to be more comfortable. And for a person like me, right? Like when I'm from like a Near Eastern culture, I mean, this kind of an attitude is preposterous. It's a very weak kind of attitude that you just don't see anywhere. You don't see it in our politics. Even our liberals are much more masculine than that. And that's something you don't want to hear being said about someone. It's just this kind of attitude you see in America particularly is just very strange. And that attitude has to shed away in my perspective, because it is very incompatible with the Christian faith. And there needs to be, and the reason why a lot of people are becoming Orthodox, a lot of people my age, a lot of people younger than me are becoming Orthodox, is because they have some instinctual desire for something that fulfills their nature and their purpose. And that's what they see in Orthodoxy and this kind of behavior. And that's why they become Orthodox. So why fight against it when you can actually embrace the Orthodox attitude? It doesn't mean that, I'm more than willing to concede the fact that, at least for myself, that I might be impassioned at certain times, right? But I think it's completely unfair to treat me like less than a dog just because I have some character flaws. Am I preaching heresy? Am I telling people something completely wrong that they shouldn't do? No one says something like that, right? No one actually gives evidence for that. They always say, oh, you have character flaws. It's like, oh, okay, like you don't like it's such a strange criticism to make, all things considered, and it's very difficult to understand. Yeah, that's just basically what I wanted to cover, Jay.
Yeah, that's fine. Do you want to stay for the Q&A questions and see what people want to bring up?
I can. If someone has any questions to me, I can.
Okay.
I can stick, but I might also leave. So
That's fine. Yeah, whatever you want to
Yeah.
do. If you would hit mute, and then we'll open it up to people's questions and comments over here on the VC on Twitter. So let's see. Von Schlief wants to say something. Go ahead, Von Schlief.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, what's up, man?
Hey, Jay, just wanted to give a quick testimonial on your help in me coming to Orthodoxy. I think, and I'm sure I can speak for literally thousands out there that, your work, and to give you a background on myself, I was Roman Catholic, raised Roman Catholic, and a lot of your material helped kind of clear up some of the concerns I was having over Catholicism. Kind of before I even really dived into Orthodoxy, I had a sense that the Catholic Church was kind of there was massive problems there. So your videos were super helpful, and then ultimately kind of led me with some other things, not just that, but
Well, thanks, dude.
your work was pretty pivotal. I guess my only question is, where do you see next 20, 30, 40 years, where do you kind of see Orthodoxy in the U.S. going? I feel like it does have a lot of wind in its sails right now. A lot of people seem to be converting, just from what I'm seeing online.
Right.
You see kind of a move more towards ecumenism, or like towards going back with the
I see a push.
RCEs,
So,
like what you're saying.
So I think that, remember, a lot of this is beyond just the mere ideological, political, spiritual sphere. There's also a lot of geopolitical influence, and I think that the powers that be would like to see the Orthodox Church split, just as you saw a split in the church in Ukraine, just as they tried to do or have done, I'm not sure, in Montenegro. That's what they were pushing for recently. They want to divide Orthodoxy down the middle, just the way they divided the church in the Ukraine. And they're going to do the exact same thing in the U.S. So I don't doubt there will continue to be people converting. And the great thing about converts is that converts convert for a reason, right? They're there because they want to be there. They're not there because they want to go back to Roman Catholicism. They're not there because they want to be Anglicans wearing fancier outfits like ancient faith radio type people. No, they want this actual thing that has this actual historical lineage, right? That's what people are wanting. So I would think that people will continue to convert. Yeah, I think you're right. People are saying in the chat, that if you look at the clergy and how they project themselves all masked up, in terms of those OCA churches, particularly the one shared by Father Galloway. I mean, I think that says it all, right? I mean, I never put on a mask in any church ever. And we'll never do that. I'd rather be kicked out of the churches than be told that I'm liable for killing people if I venerate the icons. I mean, this is just preposterous, completely ridiculous. And I told everybody in 2018 that this is the kind of clergy that will do these kinds of things. I didn't know about COOF in 2018. But I told everybody about these problems, and hundreds of people just piled on me, talked about how bad I was and how I just want to cause problems. And here we are, we've seen this. So I would venture to say that we will see more of what we're seeing, and you will see, unless we push back, people push back. Remember that laity are not mindless drones. Laity in the history of the church have many times stepped up to defend what was the case, what was true, in the face of corrupt clergy. It doesn't mean you go on a revolution. You don't start a parallel clerical, schism. That's the wrong extreme, right? You can suffer, and if you get booted out of the churches, if I get booted out of the church, that's fine. I'll suffer with that. That's the approach of the saints. Many church fathers were kicked out of churches, told you're not welcome here, banned, and then in time they're vindicated. right? I mean, some of the most famous saints in the history of the church in the last 150 years dealt with the exact same things that we're dealing with. And I think if you want a parallel in history, the best parallel is the reunion council of Florence. The false council of Florence is the perfect analog, because if you understand, like in the Ostermob book that David has lectured through, if you understand the history, the geopolitical motivations of why the real union was pushed there was not ideological, it was geopolitical. And that's the same situation as now. So the people who act like that geopolitics doesn't matter, what I talk about, that it doesn't matter. Like one of these priests was saying, oh, he's an end times doomsday prepper. Don't talk about that. So even the things they say are the conspiracy theories that I cover are not things I cover and are not views that I hold. So when I talk about geopolitical stuff, I lecture from actual geopolitical texts, things that you would read in an international relations study program, not conspiracy texts. Every now and then we do theoretical texts. That's true. But I always preface it by saying it's a theoretical text. May or may not be true. These other texts from Brzezinski, from Klaus Schwab, Jacques Attali, David Rockefeller, Dr. Carol Quigley, those are real historical geopolitical texts. And they give us an insight into what is going on now. Because the Council of Florence is a perfect model for this. And who rejected that? Some faithful bishops and clergy and the laity is who rejected the compromised, let's go back to Pope whoever, Eugene or whoever was at Florence, Eugenius, whatever, right? So it's not right. It's not actually that difficult. It's like we don't know. We wonder what's right, what's wrong. I mean, the Pope is building freaking a world religion Abu Dhabi faith center with other religions. And if you can't and don't have the spiritual discernment to see that that is wrong, then you've got more serious problems than me. I'm not your problem. You've got really serious problems.
Yeah, I'm definitely, I don't have any plans on going back to Rome. I left that for a reason.
Oh, you mean you didn't convert to go back to Rome in 2025?
Yeah. The idea of the journey that I've been on to have it end up being back in as a Roman Catholic horrified me. So I think I can probably safely say I speak for others on that as well. But cool. Well, Jay, I'll kind of leave it there. Thanks for some of that insight.
Yeah, good question.
Thanks for all the good work that you do.
Yeah, so I think they're going to push for continued division, continued splitting of the church, which is very easy to verify. You can go see what the CIA supported in the Ukraine. You can go see what all these people pushing this stuff themselves support. So it's not like it's rocket science, right? Well, we just don't know. It's all conspiracy theories. No, it's all out in the public. AC, what's up? AC.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, what's up?
Hey, what's up, Jay? Hey, thanks for all the stuff you're doing. I agree with all your arguments here, and I want to bring up 2 points before I make my criticism. It's a constructive one.
Okay.
And Father Hears also talks about the renovationism in Russia, where they did specifically target and split the church.
Oh,
and
yeah, great point.
It's not just geopolitical. The geopolitical gets its way in with this bad theology.
Exactly.
They targeted the Sophiologists and the process theologists.
Agreed.
And that overlaps with all this like kind of Gnostic esotericism that you see, whether people don't believe in it, they push it, or there are people that believe it in these, globalist circles in the New Age and all this. Whatever it is, they always come in through this. But my constructive criticism on this, I think that's so important, and you need to keep making this case that even if you're logically correct in the insult you made to a priest, there's a way to make those same critiques in a very blunt manner, the same as the fathers did. If you look at the way St. Tikhon addressed the Sergianism, I think you can still do it without being insulting and sophomoric about it, right?
Okay, well, I mean, fair enough. I'll take that to heart. Several people have said this, so I hear what you're saying. If you read the church fathers, you will find them many times being highly ironic, being very mocking of their opponents, calling them retards, calling them fools, calling them idiots, dogs, things far worse than anything I've said. So, but I will go easy on fat jokes. How's that?
It sounds good, because my thing about this too is that half the discussion yesterday was about the way you talk to a priest instead of what they're doing wrong.
Well, again, you have a fair point there, but if the thing that triggers me is not the desire to be mean, it's the desire that people have to publicly portray their piety. That really bothers me. And everything that I read in his 6 reasons why I should be avoided or whatever, to me just smacked of, we all need to be praying, we all need to be doing this, and it's not actually the attitude that he had with the lecture presentation. So I don't think that he expected everyone to know about and be looking at his lecture presentation, and because it's very mocking and very silly, and it's very, basically demonstrates no knowledge of what's actually going on in the world with these topics. For example, when he talks about conspiracy theories, literally no knowledge of any of this stuff, very dismissive, hand waving, and silly. He's playing rap songs. Why are we playing rap songs? I mean, I'm a joker. I call myself a comedian. I don't call myself a theologian. I don't call myself a spiritual advisor. I'm over here making jokes, right? And you've got other people like Ben Cave calling priests mentally ill publicly with no reason to call them mentally ill. Did I call Father Galloway mentally ill for no reason? No, he says himself he's diagnosed with mental illness. And so my question was, why are mentally ill people tasked with coming after people? To me, that seems manipulative on the part of the people that task him with coming after us. That's what I'm saying. So I feel sorry for that person. And I don't know this person. I've never talked to this person. No, none of these people know me or have ever interacted with me, but they know that from a snippet of 5 years ago when I called Eric Ibarra fat or something, then I'm bad. Okay. But if that's what it's going to amount to, again, I just don't feel that bad in comparison to all this other stuff that's going on. But I will take that to heart as a legitimate criticism to try to be more compassionate and be more reasonable.
I don't even think it's a matter of being more compassionate, even though as Christians, I guess that's always our goal. I just think if you had also avoided that and then criticized him he would be the one with the double standard for coming after you with the false piety and then having these lectures acting like this, if you hadn't done it too. Okay. I really think your points
Fair enough.
Can be made higher level. But thank you, Jay.
All right. Yeah, I'll try to be more reserved in the way that I approach these questions. Elder Millennial, what's up, man?
Hello?
Elder Millennial? Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, Jay. How you doing?
Great. How are you?
I owe you a slight an apology. I think I irritated you early on some years ago when I first discovered you. I'll let that's behind me now.
Fair.
Do you?
By the way, yeah. Well, I don't know whatever it is. I'm happy to let any of these things go. Anybody that does want to be on good terms, we can let all these things go. Let's do it.
Yeah,
Sure.
In fact, I am very grateful. You helped lead my entire family into Orthodoxy.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Glad to be of a positive influence.
I've only recently been following this peculiar conflict between you and Theoria. And I was, in fact, just a few hours ago, I was trying to convince him. I made an argument for him that he really shouldn't be judging you unless he's had some perspective on your particular struggles. Everything, all the things you had to put up with over the years, from debating Jack Chick fundamentalists to the Diamond Brothers, and he says he's never listened to you.
Yeah,
not a single thing.
I think most of these people have never listened to me because, for example, the Antiochian priest who said, I don't listen to his conspiracy theories about doomsday prepping and the end of the world. Anybody who listen to what we talk about would know we never talk about that.
I'm under Antioch myself, and I'm rather surprised to hear that, because at least the part of Antioch that's run out of the Rocky Mountain area, as far as I know, is fairly open to
No, I mean, I think it's not just the main problem is not jurisdictional except for OCA and GoArch, which is all this is odd too, because I would have thought that the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese would have been way more involved in being opposed to the stuff that we put out, given the Elpidophoros ethos over there. But it's just surprising to me that the main locus of this opposition is really the OCA, and some of the whistleblower priests that have talked to me about this have pointed out that, well, that's because the OCA operates in a very top-down strategy. It comes out of their old Cold War role they played in the Cold War. And so they have a very military top-down mindset when it comes to a lot of dealing with a lot of these issues. And so their approach is shut it all down, shut down blogs that don't do what they're told, shut down the people that don't do it, because we do want to go in this direction. So in other words, the OCA is concerned about recognition, I'm told, from the whistleblower priest by the by the EP. And then the EP is concerned with the eventual union with Rome. And 2025 matters. People are asking me, well, 2025 is the anniversary of Nicaea. So you want to wonder why they're going to try to push that in 2025. Well, it's because of Nicaea. Now, I think it would be great if there was a reunion with Rome, if Rome stopped teaching the theological errors that they teach, right?
I think it's more likely that a rival Orthodox Pope will arise in the future, myself. I've been on a long journey from reading Piltdown Pete all the way to that's my nickname for Desjardins, all the way to the liturgical time bombs of Vatican II,
yes,
which I highly recommend.
Yeah, it's a great book. I recommend it as well.
Yeah, and which in turn has helped lead me to you. And I'm just astonished that anyone out of Antioch who knows anything about the situation of His Holiness and what he's had to put up with since his brother was disappeared 10 years ago.
Who's this?
Patriarch, the Archbishop of Aleppo.
Okay.
You know he was
Syria.
disappeared.
You're talking about the Syria
I'm sorry,
event.
what?
Yeah, the Syria event. Yeah, I'm familiar with this. Yeah.
Oh yeah. He, my priest, he says a prayer for the missing archbishop every Sunday, and it just creeps me out that something like that can happen, and yet there are still Antiochian priests, at least. I don't necessarily expect a Greek and Russian priest to know about this, but it's part of the prayer list, and there's the man many believe to have kidnapped him, a Wahhabi fanatic. He was talking about grinding up enemies into dog food. And it's just stuff of nightmares. It's we don't know what he did is the thing.
Right.
That's pure terror. And some people accuse John of being too ecumenical with Assad's branch of Islam, but I think he's just being the best shepherd he can be. He's doing what Pope Leo the Great did with Attila the Hun in negotiating the best situation he could for the safety of Rome under dire circumstances, in my view. Because Assad is manifestly the lesser of the evils in that area.
Oh, absolutely, sure.
And that American Protestants, conservative Protestants, populist Protestants, or Catholics even, don't get that. They just don't grasp that.
Right.
And that's why they keep falling for the neocon propaganda against Assad.
Yeah, and by the way, a lot of these OCA bishops who would be opposed to what we're talking about in some of those cases would be duped by that as well. Right now, I'm glad that there was a public statement, I think, by the first hierarch of the OCA to still not support the schism in the Ukraine. But what we're witnessing again, and I'm not trying to make everything geopolitical. So somebody was saying that there's also a spiritual component. Absolutely, that's spirituality is the main component. But I'm just trying to explain that a lot of people don't understand that it's not just spirituality and ideology. It's also geopolitical. That's why when you look at the instances of the Reunion Council of Florence, and yes, absolutely, the 20th century relationship between the Soviets and the church, and what the Soviets did. By the way, we did a great interview with Metropolitan Jonah on the KGB and how that actually worked in the Russian church, and you can go see what we did there, and you'll get a better picture, because a lot of times people try to make this an all or nothing thing, and Metropolitan Jonah points out that no, actually the KGB had a gradation, a list of clergy that were fully compromised and installed by them, people that were maybe compromisable, people that were more so neutral, and then the clergy that were in opposition and resistance. So there's the graded scale, and everybody wants to say, oh, they were all KGB, everybody was KGB. No, it wasn't like that. It's more complex than that. And there's that interview that we did, I don't know, 3 years ago. Yeah, so I'm glad you're making these points, that we do have to be sensitive to, especially clergy that are, or bishops that are in hot zones like that have to deal with tough situations and tough calls relating to the state. But we also have to be aware, and a lot of people are just simply ignorant of this. Not you, but in general, guys, it's not any different for the Orthodox Church in America. And I'm not speaking of the jurisdiction, I'm speaking of the whole Orthodox Church in America. Immense pressures are put by the state, by NGOs, by foundations, by private powers, by money from foundations to steer churches in different directions. And we have documented that with multiple legal and professional expert analysis. I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about the books that we cover, like David Wimhoff's book. Okay, that's a lawyer documenting this in 800 pages, how it works in the Vatican. It's not a conspiracy theory. Go read his book, Time Life Magazine, and John Courtney Murray. We've lectured on 7-8 hours on that book. Go ahead.
It really does appear to me that there is an underlying broad church fanaticism against all things high and low. They want to all turn us into one squishy, gooey mess.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's the ultimate result of via media is the pathway ends in a mire. It ends in a swamp. This is Elizabeth's the first ultimate legacy on Christian development,
yes,
in my opinion.
I agree. Yeah, great analysis too there with the Anglicans. All right, anything else before we move on?
What's your opinion on the movie The Prisoner with Alec Guinness?
Oh, I watched that many years ago. I mentioned it in my first book. Is he playing Cardinal Wyszynski? I'm trying to remember.
Possibly.
Yeah.
He's loosely based on several Christian leaders who were kidnapped by the Bolsheviks.
Yes. So I did a video on 2 books that are relevant to that. One is written by a Cold Warrior CIA analyst, Jim Kohler, I forget his name, Koehler. And we look at his analysis of his tracking of the KGB's infiltration into the Vatican. And then we did a comparison with a more critical text of that by Paul Williams about Gladio and the Vatican. So if you find that video, that would probably be the most relevant, because I do bring up some of those Cold War movies like that I don't doubt that was going on, but we do have to be more fair with the fact that, this narrative that was pushed for many years by the CIA to co-opt the Roman Catholic Church was actually, in the long run, to co-opt the Roman Catholic Church for Western elite interests under the guise of the Cold War. Now, the Soviets were bad news, but it's not as simple as good guy, bad guy. I'm not saying you're saying that, but that talk was the Vatican, Jesuits, Marian apparitions, the Stasi, and the KGB. So if you find that video, I cover it will be relevant to the question that you asked. But as a movie, I do think it was a good movie. I enjoyed it back in the day. Braden, what's up?
Before we move on, I just gotta say I gotta go to sleep. It's a bit late. It was nice hanging out with you on the stream.
All right, thanks, David.
All right, see you later.
Braden, are you there? Braden. All right, I guess he's not there. Nicephore, Nicephore, Lucifer. Okay. Oh, it's having a hard time connecting. So sometimes the internet's a little shaky here. So we're on the road. By the way, if you guys would hit like and share. Let's see, the next person wants to. Braden, can you connect? Still trying to connect you guys, but if you guys would hit like and share, we are going to do some of these super chats here. Be sure and follow David on his channel. He's linked in the show description. Draven Rain, $10. Jay, he's saying you don't need to read this. Why was I blocked? You helped bring me. Well, because I looked at a lot of the people who were chiming in and trying to play both sides, and you know, any of these cartoon profiles, these people that were siding with all these weirdos. I have a tendency to do mass blocking, and some people took issue with that. It's worked well for me because it just kind of keeps away the people who harass and don't know what they're talking about. You're saying to unblock you. Well, I don't know who you are, but yeah, I'll be happy to unblock you. Is your name Draven Rain? Maybe comment on this video or comment in the chat. I need to know what your Twitter handle was, because basically I just anything that was a cartoon profile, anything that was a Roman Catholic lib profile, lib ortho Skittles, all got blocked yesterday, and I don't feel bad about that. However, one person did make a good point that maybe you should invite these people to chat. So here we go. Anybody is welcome to come chat that wants to come chat. You can have the floor. Is it not working? What the heck's going on? Let's try again. See if it connects now. Sometimes the internet here kind of bumps up and down. Romano is $5. The incident, unfortunately, yeah, I agree, it's unfortunate, shows how gullible and easily led people are, misled by shoddy statistics. Yeah, his argument was he sent a thing out to 60 priests that he knew. 30 responded, and so 3 out of 30 recommended, and 90% out of 30. Nobody no idea who he sent it to. Who's the 30 people? I mean, he probably sent it to 30 people that he knew didn't like what we talked about. So it's like, yeah, of course, if I send something out to 30 people who hate me, well, let's poll the Democrats to see if they're going to vote for Trump. And it turns out 99% of Democrats are not going to vote for Trump this year. An amazing statistical feat. Well, if you look at the writings of Bill Gates, or if you look at the books I recommend, one of the books I recommend is How to Lie with Statistics. It's a great book. Which is literally the case. He loves that book. I don't know why it's not connecting people on Twitter. But we'll keep trying here. Maybe it'll pop up. Okay, so somebody, you're on. Phi, I can't see the name. Phi something.
Is it me, Philippos?
Yeah, I just can't see your full name because it just shows me the picture. Go ahead.
Yeah, in English, Philip. Anyway, just a geopolitical point. I haven't heard the discussion from the beginning, but I think there was an insinuation that the Ecumenical Patriarch is a CIA asset.
Did I say that?
No, I that's why I asked.
Oh, so where did you get that? I never said he was a CIA asset. I have pointed to many articles that have pointed out that he does what the State Department tells him to do. Never said, quote, he's a CIA asset. I said I talked about the spooky subversion of the church. And that has been written about and talked about by many people. who are famous geopolitical analysts like Jim Jatras, who has written many articles on this, who we've had on the show many times.
May I ask one thing? Like, if the ecumenical patriarch is that close to State Department, why the Halki Seminary is still closed? Is closed from 1971.
I don't know, but are you saying that he's not that he doesn't do what Washington tells him to do?
Yeah, because otherwise he would have the seminary open. He doesn't have any priests. He's choked.
Mm-hmm. So let me give you an example. Was it declassified that during the Cold War, the CIA publicly, or the CIA was deciding who the patriarchate was? Is that declassified or not?
I'm not aware of that. Could you repeat, please?
Right. So declassified documents from the Cold War period that FDR was essentially saying who the next patriarch should be, and he sent Bill Donham and the CIA over, or the OSS over to do that.
So the State Department decides who will be the next ecumenical patriarch?
Yeah, I'm asking you, was that declassified or not?
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it was, and it's on my timeline. You can scroll back a few days. It's famous thing. Okay, so you're not aware of that. Are you aware of any of Jim Jatras's writings or works?
No.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's a genuine.
No. So you're not aware of these things, but ready to talk about that it's not the case. Joseph Leo.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, what's up?
Hi, so just a quick question. So, like, you know, as we both know with the Roman Catholic Church, it's become so compromised to the fact that it like invalidated its own dogma. So, like, my question is, like, how bad could it possibly get in the Orthodox Church with liberalism and heresy until, like, the bishops have to lay the hammer down? Otherwise, like, a similar thing happens in the Orthodox Church and the ecclesiology itself is compromised. A little bit of a hypothetical question.
How bad is it? What was the question? How bad does it have to get?
Yeah, how bad could it get with heresy, with like individual bishops holding heretical opinions before it becomes a problem for the ecclesiology itself, is what I would say.
That I couldn't tell you. By the way, for those in the chat, here's Jim Jatras's articles on Bartholomew, articles on the money behind the meddling in the Ukraine, the support for what Bartholomew is up to. Jim Jatras has probably 30 articles on this over the last 5 years or more. So, you know, it's just ridiculous people coming on here and don't have no idea what I mean, literally there's an entire website dedicated to this, SPZH right there. Let's look at the CIA support for the Ukraine. I mean, do people not know who supports what's going on in Ukraine? I mean, are you really that dense about geopolitical issues? But you want to say I'm a bad man for talking about these things. And I mean, it's just like, all this stuff is public. Go look at the declassified documents that I shared. And I shared it again, probably for the 10th time, on Twitter and on my Instagram, that the CIA was very much involved in choosing the patriarch in the Cold War. Now, do you think they just quit? Oh, we don't care anymore because it's not the Cold War anymore. And he's saying, well, there's some seminary that's not open. This has nothing to do with whether or not the CIA is calling the shots in the Ukraine and telling Bartholomew who he needs to support. And that's all open. And you can read about that on mainline Orthodox websites. Let's look at this. The State Department congratulates the Ukraine for creating the pro-American puppet schism church right there. CIA goes and gives Duminko, what's his name? Denisenko awards. CIA awards for doing what Washington says. This is all public information. U.S. Embassy publicly tweets out that this is the goal. This is all geopolitical. Right? I mean, we could keep going on and on and on. There's in the chat right there. 5 links for you. 5 links. Vic. And people say, why do you get so heated over this? Because I deal with this. I've talked about this topic for so long, for many years. And this is one of the chief elements by which people want to say that I'm bad, that I'm wrong. Did not say that the patriarch is a CIA spy. Never said that. I said that he does what the State Department wants him to do, and that they pay and they put pressure on clerics to do this. Don't put words in my mouth, trying to make me sound stupid. Didn't say he's a CIA operative. Never said that. Go ahead, whoever's next. I can't see the name. Joseph?
Oh, I'm still on. I guess that was my question. So that's all I had.
Oh, I'm sorry. Deported something. I can't see what else it says. Deported something. Trying to connect, so we'll go to the next person. Justin, what's up, Justin?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, what's up?
Hello, so I would like to give a testament. I'm actually the president of the OCF at UC Santa Cruz, and something that I experienced back in like September is one day I was just sitting, it was August, and I was basically like trying to prepare a schedule for the quarter, and then I get an email, and it's something along the lines of, have you planned for September? And then, okay, the chapter resources, this is what OCF does every month. It's pretty typical, and I click on it, and then one of the first things I see is a book recommendation by one of the staff called Repentance and Purity by Pope Shenouda III. And I was like, what is going on? Why is that book getting recommended?
Mm-hmm.
I click on it, and I was like, okay. I look at the video. I don't want to put words in her mouth, but she sounds like she's praising him. And then I realized I went on the OCF Discord that she's actually Coptic Orthodox herself.
Yeah, I think I know who you're talking about.
OCF.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Hundreds of chapters, and it's like, what is going on? So.
Well, this is one of the people I know you're talking about that I called attention to 5 years ago that partly prompted Father Damick to come after me. So it was bad of me to call attention to the very thing that you're calling attention to. So the problem is not promotion of, and by the way, if it's the same person who was Coptic, she's a change agent. They used to have her listed on the AFR website as a person who studied, I don't remember what, gender studies, I don't know what it was, but she focused in social change and being a change agent. So if it's the same Coptic person that you're talking about, which it probably is. Yeah, so but again, I called attention to that about her 5 years ago, but I'm bad. And he hates women, he attacks women, all the same old baloney. By the way, I'm going back to find you guys the declassified, maybe I should just pull it up. Declassified CIA documents about the CIA choosing the patriarch, or essentially threatening and saying, no, it's going to be this person in the Cold War. Yep, here it is.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, her name is Demiana Salib. She's a ministry intern. I mean, personally, I don't watch her content very often, so I don't know about those things.
Okay. Yeah, I don't remember who I was talking about.
This was certainly pretty shocking that type of stuff just gets. And then I actually emailed her personally. I was like, and I was concerned for her. I thought, oh, maybe she was just misled. And I emailed her. This was way before I found out she was Coptic. I found out randomly while on Discord, like a month afterwards. But at that point, I was like, maybe she just doesn't know. So I emailed her and I was like, hey, this person's outside of the church. It's like he's Coptic Orthodox. Just letting you know. And then I got an email from a higher up, and then she's like, thank you for your email. As the director of ministries, I have instructed the staff to choose books which they have found personally beneficial in their own lives in which they would like to share with college students. Our reading recommendations are not intended to replace personal spiritual direction under a spiritual father. And if you're unsure of whether or not a particular recommendation would be appropriate for you to read at this point in your spiritual journey, I encourage you to reach out to your spiritual father for his counsel. Now, I found that really confusing, because then my question is, why would you give a book recommendation to the whole OCF if it's not supposed to replace the spiritual father? I mean,
Right.
maybe then, it's like, and then they go like, oh, and just to summarize the rest of the email, if this particular book is not for you, I hope that you find other resources. And then the higher up goes through, oh yeah, we also have this and this and this. And I don't know, it felt like she was, this is just my interpretation, it felt like she was trying to distract me from the fact of that a Coptic Orthodox Pope is getting recommended as the life of him, a book about the life of him, to the
Right,
whole
because
of OCF, hundreds of chapters.
Yeah, many
And,
of them just believe that ecumenism is true, and they're all the same church as us. And if you don't go along with that and you do apologetics, you're a bad man. So yeah, I appreciate that, and thank you for calling attention to that. Anything else?
Other than that, this is under the Assembly of Orthodox Bishops, and anyone can look on the website and see a lot of ecumenism on there. I mean, as far as I can see, I don't want to make a definite statement, but looking on the website, I see a lot of that as well, and the OCF is under that Assembly of Orthodox Canonical Bishops. So
Right.
Either way, thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, great points. Yeah, this is very similar to what we called attention to 5 years ago that led to Father Damick going on his crusade. So, Deported, what's up? Deported? Orthodox Review, if you're there, it's having a hard time connecting, so I'll read a couple super chats. Second Wolf, $5. Part of the reason I love what your content is that you're not fake. Yeah, you guys know that I'm the goofy guy. I talk about philosophy. We talk about silly stuff, movies. That's me. You don't pretend to be someone that you're not. Yeah, we don't do the piety signaling. We don't do, everyone, let's see how much I pray. You're not mean. I don't think so. I can get heated and I make jokes, but I'm not mean-spirited. That being said, I can tell you do not put up with BS. That's correct. Thank you, Second Wolf. That's why I trust you. Much appreciated, Second Wolf. Tag Hua with $10. They will call you a rigorous because they are actually heretical neo-renovationists. There's a lot of parallels to that, between that and this stuff, absolutely. BMX 1966, $20. Great video. Thank you, BMX. Chase Haggard, $3. I have 10 catechumens at my parish directly due to the work of Jay. My church has never seen so many catechumens. Thank you, Chase. That's a great testament there. And I think maybe we'll try to do some streams later this week with David, Chase, and other. As far as I know, Father John Wyford will be coming on in the next few days. And then hopefully we'll have more clergy to come on and eventually and talk about these subjects. Nicholas M., $10. Thank you for your work. The debate with Shabir Ali and the Muslims saved me from all the lies of Islam. Yeah, the amazing thing about this is that, we're out here debating Muslims, and immediately after that period of intense, year or two debating with Muslims, then I start to get death threats, this kind of stuff, which everybody saw that. I shared that on Twitter. And that's not the only one. There was one threat, we're going to beat your ass. Then there was a threat of, I'm going to cut your head off and mail it to your wife. So that's the stuff that we deal with, right? Could you imagine if any of these people got that kind of a threat, what they would be peeing in their pants. So, we're dealing with this kind of stuff. I have to install, alarm at my house. I have a wife got to take care of. I don't know if these people know this, but self-defense is not, or pacifism is not the Orthodox view. So I do believe in self-defense. For the people that, I hire private security at my events. We've done that for the last year. So yeah, people need to understand that I do believe in self-defense if they're going to start making these kinds of threats and come after me. George Bataille, $10. Name your price. I will send you if you do a full video of Mormon theology. Yeah, I've told this story many times. Many years ago, when I was first starting to get into Orthodox theology, probably 2008, maybe 2009 or 10, I don't remember, somewhere in there, whenever, 08, because it was when Mitt Romney was running. So I was supposed to have a debate with Mitt Romney's faith and values person. trying to remember that guy's name. Justin Hart, that's his name. So he's like a big Mormon campaign Romney person or whatever. I think he's like a libertarian kind of Ron Paul type of person. We were going to have a debate on Mormonism. So I actually went to the library and I spent 2 weeks just hardcore crash course Mormon study. This was in 2008. And then came time for the debate and he backed out of it. So that never happened. Now, looking back, it's actually good because my theology at the time, I mean, I was still kind of, defending the Trinity and all that kind of stuff. And I don't think I would have necessarily lost the debate, but I was way less grounded, in good theology in 2008 than I am now. So it's probably better that it didn't happen. I probably would have said wrong things. But I did take an intense 2 week. I mean, I was getting into the old Brigham Young texts, and I was getting into they have a systematic theology by Talmage. I was reading all that stuff. So I'll think about that, George. I'll think about covering that. Second Wolf, $5. What's a good litmus test about a priest if he's based and really Orthodox? Meet with these priests and just ask them questions. Don't be afraid to do that. You're going to be better off in the long run asking questions and just being upfront. I mean, don't be crazy about it. Don't try to debate and call him out. And again, we didn't do that. Did I ever say go and debate your priest? Go call him out? No, but I'll give you an example from St. Cyril of Jerusalem. Best I recall, St. Cyril of Jerusalem says, and he was a bishop, in his catechetical lectures, he says that if I can't convince you of these positions, if you come to me as an inquirer or catechumen and I can't convince you of these positions, if I don't do my job of apologetics, then I can't expect you to believe these things. That was St. Cyril of Jerusalem. So don't be afraid to, in a very, respectful and kind way, ask these questions. Gur, $5. My wife felt it fair to bring up your issues with lust in response to Galloway's issues with gluttony. Yeah, that's fine. And I saw she was tweeting and she was going through all my old Instagram stuff and trying to find whatever dirt. So we just wish you would lead with his lectures against you. Yeah, that's going to be tomorrow. And so, or either tomorrow or the next few days. So I've always been very open about, like, my main struggles aren't hating people. It's not typically anger at people. I can be angry at times. I think all of us that are men get angry at times. But even anger itself isn't necessarily a sin, right? What does David say? Be angry in your heart and do not sin. Okay, well then anger itself isn't a sin. So being passionate, being angry isn't even necessarily a sin. And I would say that the majority of the energy and effort that we engage in over here isn't malicious and isn't. People say, "Oh, it's okay to have righteous anger, but you should not be righteously angry all the time." Yeah, we're not. I mean, most of the stuff we do over here is culture commentary, movie commentary, joking around. And I even took a lengthy break from debating. I swore off debates for Lent, except I did offer that to Ben Cabe if he wanted to do a debate. But all theological, you'll notice for Lent, we've not done any open forum debates. We've not done any invitations to have people on to debate. The only offer of debate was when he said, you're wrong about PSYOP stuff. And I said, well, I know that pretty well, so you're welcome to come on and have a debate about PSYOP stuff. But he wasn't talking about psychological warfare. He was talking about the stuff dealing with the drama or whatever. So it wasn't an issue to have a public debate over. So yeah, I will be leading with those lectures, and your wife can feel free to continue to tweet about how I'm an evil, lustful person, because I've already admitted it. Like, I've already told everybody that. Yeah, like 10 years ago, I slept with a bunch of women. I've said that on many streams. And then when I joined Instagram, I followed a bunch of yoga stuff because I had a TV show on a yoga channel. So that was a networking thing. Bone Man, $45. Fellow in the chat says, how might the conflict in Ukraine end? What are your thoughts? I don't know, because it seems to keep ramping up. And, we did the interview with Colonel McGregor, and he thinks that the Ukraine will lose. He thinks that I don't know how long he thinks it'll go, but it probably will end in the loss of Ukraine, and that might lead to a bigger war. So hopefully by God's grace, peace can occur somehow. But it seems like they keep ramping it up. And I hope to not see, Tucker did a show just the other night saying that we might even have a full-on war. So, like a global war. I hope not. Death Culture, $7. Keep your head high. Do not let the Ameridox get to you. You know what? I'm not worried about it. I have dealt with this kind of stuff for a long time. And, it's weird because a lot of this is a repeat of 2018. It's just like it's flashing me back to all the stuff that was going on in 2018, which we moved past all that, right? And at that time, there was somebody who sort of said, hey, will you agree to not come out against Father Damick, and he'll not do stuff against you? And there was an agreement made between a mediating priest at that time. And then he went on Gospel Simplicity and was calling us out. So I was like, well, again, so if you were, deals off, right? And in the case of these people as well, I don't have any desire to fight with these people. I have no desire. We have not fought with any priests or clerics since 2018 publicly. I haven't called out any bishops until now with them. And you see that it's now he's lecturing against me. Okay, I didn't make this up. And it's just odd that people would assume that I'm so unhinged and that I just want to have this conflict and that I want to come after priests. No, that's not true. I don't believe that that's the way that we should operate. But I also am not a wuss, and I don't bend to people who make up stuff. It's that simple. So if I felt that the criticism, I'm not talking about his public Twitter criticisms of me being heated. I'm talking about his lectures that I'm a bad person for conspiracy theories. That I'm not gonna take that one. I will listen, and I've listened to many, many people about the criticism of you getting too heated in debates. And as you can see, I am fasting from debates, theology debates and all that during Lent. Because, okay, yeah, I've heard this. And by the way, I've taken it, when I go to confession, I say, amongst dirty thoughts, prideful thoughts, and if in that span of time I lost my temper with somebody, yes. But I don't typically lose my temper. I do spurg out on Twitter when there's people just making stuff up. But I think most people would spurg out when it's just completely fabricated stuff, completely made up stuff. Now, in the case of Father Galloway's comment, again, it's not that big of a deal that his criticism is that I'm too heated in debates. That is true. And, we've been over that many times, and I've admitted that. But what's not true is that was all that was going on, and he was just being a humble, friendly advice giver. No, he was actually giving lectures, mocking us, talking about us being ridiculous, crazy conspiracy. That was actually going on. And you all have seen the lectures now. So here's the lectures again. Shared it for you many times. So you see that, I didn't make that up. A lot of you thought, he made that. Guess what? I'm not making anything else up either. I'm not making up the other stuff. So just the default to, he's the bad person. And then what do we see? It turns out, no, he was actually correct. Don't you think I would, do you think that I'm that unhinged that I just pick people to be mean to? Who am I going to be mean to now? Let me find a humble priest on Twitter to be mean to. Give me a break. That's just ridiculous. Ritalu, what's up? Unbelievable. Ritalu? No. Some of these people are having a hard time connecting. Toledo, what's up, Toledo? Next super chat is Cinderella, $10. Please reconsider unblocking me. I've defended and shared your work on Twitter. You are the reason I'm Orthodox. Well, it's a lot of people who recently came to Orthodoxy who then decided that now I'm bad. And this is what happened in 2018 because there was a lot of catechumens, a lot of converts at that time that decided, he's mean Twitter man. And so when I see the people that are saying on the one hand, I really like your work and you helped me convert, and then they're liking everything that is calling me, everything under the sun. To me, that doesn't speak to it speaks to duplicitous, right? Oh, well, Jay's cool, but oh yeah, but he's also a piece of shit, right? And I like all the people that say he's a piece of shit. Okay, sure. Lula, $5. You don't have to read this. I just wanted to say that I love you and support your work. Well, we read all the super chats, but thank you, Lula. Appreciate that. Be sure and follow David, guys. Remember, too, the show sponsor is Chalk.com, the best supplements out there. Head over to Chalk.com and increase your toxic masculinity. Be an evil, rigorous conspiracy theorist like me, and do that by using the promo code J50 to get 50% off, and then use the promo code J53Life to get 53% off all recurring subscriptions. Now, in the coming week when I get back home, we will do more information. We'll publish more information on the actual lectures that he gave, including this, showing all the slides. And so you'll see. And then hopefully, and we'll also have Father Whiteford on. Yeah, thank you, Chase, for making that point about, I am not calling myself Saint Nectarios, right? But we look to these kinds of saints who dealt with this kind of stuff to deal with this kind of thing, right? The persecution as it ramps up. So, you know, in 2018, it was this is all very similar to the Damick situation 2018, except that now it's sort of blown up to multiple people across the OCA, and particularly clerics. So that's the situation. It's a lot bigger scale than it was in 2018. So, yeah, looking forward to those upcoming streams. Reminder tonight, also, guys, we have the show with Frank. So if you're a subscriber to my stuff or a paid subscriber to Frank's material, we will have the next sections of Brave New World tonight. So we worked all the way up through chapter 6 or 7. So we'll continue that tonight as well for subscribers. Am I still in Miami for spring break? No, I'm in Nashville this weekend. So anyway, also too, I think what I'm going to do, because I don't want, obviously my channel is not going to be dominated by this stuff, right? I mean, this stuff comes and goes. And the reason we do this stuff is to make a record of it, because we want it to be there when, you know, now people are asking, why did you have a problem with Father Damick 5 years ago? Okay, well, here's the podcast that demonstrates and shows you a whole essay that he wrote was all made up about me, calling me Tiny Mustache Man follower and all that. That's all recorded, you see. So that's why we do these live streams, to have the record. And so people can see and come and hear and figure out what's actually going on, and realize that no, we're not on a crusade to go after clergy. We're not on a crusade to go after people. We do reply when they crusade against us. And so there we go. Everybody have a good day. Oh, I'm going to create a Substack. So that's what I'm doing. So to keep this kind of in its own domain, I'll just have this information on a Substack. And that way, you know, people who don't care about this stuff, they don't have to keep hearing about it on this outlet. Yeah, this is true. Yeah. Diakonos says that when these things come, it's to teach you to deal with conflict. You're absolutely right. And so in 2018, when this happened, that was very difficult, because I was trying to come into the church and I felt like, I am on Gab. What do you mean? Jay's not on Gab. I'm on Gab. Type my name in. And so having gone through it, I'm not as upset as I would have been, you know, if I'd not dealt with this already in 2018. It's just on a bigger scale. And so, yeah, I'm not bothered by it. But the Substack will be, I just created it. So I'm just going to start keeping a record of all that over there, so it doesn't take up and dominate my website or the channel. This is not going to be what we always talk about. Because as you guys are going to see, all the stuff that I'm talking about, you will see this as it happens. As we move to 2025, you will see the push for the ecumenist stuff. It's already happening. It's not my theory. You've already got this publicly out there. Bartholomew says he wants to go back to Rome. Okay, so you can all track this, follow this, take a record of this, and in 2 or 3 years when all this happens, you can find a new reason to say that I'm a bad man. You can find another clip in 2025